Welcome, everyone. My name is Susan Patterson. I am a national leader in the fight against human trafficking. Today, I am thrilled to present Hannah Underwood, the director of Present Day Ministries, who will be sharing with us today about their work, which includes a brilliant game that girls can play, which boosts their self-esteem and teaches them to stand up for themselves. We know from interviews with recruiters whom the sex traffickers post at malls that if they walk up to a girl and say, "You are beautiful," and the girl or woman says thank you and keeps on walking, the recruiters back off because they know a woman with high self-esteem will be difficult to trick. If the girl looks down and says something like, "Do you really think so?" then they'll be on that girl like white on rice because that girl will be easy to manipulate. Collaboration is key to the end of human trafficking, and this program represents an opportunity for an individual or an entity like a church to raise the money to buy a program like this for a nonprofit or church that works with at-risk youth. At the end of the interview, Hannah mentioned that everyone can do one thing. If you are not clear what that one thing is, then visit our channel, and you can find our channel by clicking on the icon in the lower left. There are videos for churches and videos for individuals like this one, The Power of Community Engagement, where everyone can learn their part. So do subscribe to this channel. You can support the work of Present Day Ministries by liking and sharing this video. Let's join Hannah now. Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to introduce Hannah Arrowwood today. She's the founder and executive director of Present Age Ministries, a nonprofit committed to combating the sexual abuse, exploitation, and trafficking of girls. She combines 10 years of experience in corporate America with 11 years of nonprofit leadership. Hannah utilizes her experience to spearhead program development across the United States as well as international countries. She serves on national and statewide initiatives to address human trafficking. In North Carolina, Hannah serves on the Charlotte Metropolitan Human Trafficking Task Force, Cabarrus County Task Force and Regional Task Force, where she chairs the Education and Training Committee. So welcome, Hannah.
Thank you, Susan. I'm really excited to be here with you today.
Very good, and we're excited to have you. So why did you get involved in human trafficking?
The simple or the complicated answer? The simple answer is it truly was a call from the Lord. The more complicated answer is I ran from it for years and had to come kicking and screaming to be obedient. And so now anything after that, the Lord definitely gets credit for, because I realized very quickly there when I was in corporate America, I realized very quickly that it was not fulfilling the things that I knew God had spoke over my life, but there was fear and there was a lot of comfort that I didn't necessarily want to let go of. And so finally I surrendered to that and was obedient, and um, realized very quickly I didn't really understand what I was saying yes to as things started to grow, and we started to get into much darker issues,
Yes.
as we know this issue is. And I joke with people in the Lord all the time, like, you pulled a fast one on me. I did not know this is what I was saying yes to. But here we are. We actually are getting ready to celebrate 13 years
Wow.
in November of 21. And so he has been faithful and gracious, and it's an exciting adventure every day. That is for sure.
Yes, absolutely. It always is when we say yes to God, for sure.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So, how does Present Age Ministries address human trafficking?
So as you mentioned and you read, Present Age is committed to combating, and I like to emphasize that word combating, because there really is there's a war between opposing forces, and so we really come at it from this perspective of understanding that our first battle is spiritual, and the atrocities that we are fighting are not rooted in earthly things. And so while we have programs that we actually use to combat this issue, we come from a perspective first and foremost that we have the weapons and we've been equipped to fight this battle, and that's the posture and the position that we do it. And so we have three main pillars of Present Age, if you will. Awareness and advocacy is our first one. We want to ensure that the community that we are serving, regardless of where they're at, that they are accurately educated on the issue. There's a lot of stereotypes. There's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of, well, I think it looks this way. And so we want to accurately educate professionals, parents, community partners, law enforcement, emergency room workers, so that they can appropriately identify what a victim presents as. Because as we all know, majority of the time they are not self-identifying themselves.
No.
And so if we are not prepared, we are going to miss what's right in front of us. So awareness and advocacy is pillar number one. Pillar number two is prevention. I will, every day that I sit in this seat, want to invest money in prevention. I would much rather prevent this atrocity than responding to the horrific journey that what it entails when working with someone who's gone with it. So prevention for us takes on a couple of different forms. At a high level, I'm actively involved in our school systems, in the classroom settings, in assemblies, and after school program. And then we also have an early intervention program for those that are identified as high risk based on some criteria where we see there's already vulnerabilities that are being exploited, but they haven't yet been exploited or trafficked. And we want to get in there early before they continue down a path of victimization. And then for us, the last pillar of programming is direct services. Our For the One survivor support program is a model of support that wraps around a survivor and her family once they've been identified. And all of our programming is really geared with the mindset of we work with under the age of 18. So we work with minors. And so everything is developmentally based. It is specific to what is happening in an adolescent brain in their appropriate phase of development. And so when a client is referred to us by a community partner, whether that's law enforcement or juvenile justice or the hospital system or school systems, we begin a journey with them. It is not a quick fix. It is not a clean cut path. There are lots of twists and turns and ups and downs, and we walk that journey on average with these girls about 18 months. And so it is if they need us to be there 3 or 4 years, there is no set duration, unlike some other programs, and we really learn what is best for that child and create an individualized care plan that our case managers implement and follow and guide and walk with them. And we just tell them that we're going to do life with you. And none of us can tell you what life's going to look like in 2 years. So why would we expect a traumatized 14-year-old to be able to?
Right.
And so that's really that's how we combat this issue, is through those 3 pillars of programming.
Beautiful. And I love what you said about investing in prevention, because as we both know, only 1% to 2% are ever rescued.
Right.
Right. So if we can prevent it, we're so far ahead of the game. So
Yeah.
I love what you're doing. So
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So can you tell us a little bit more about the prevention program, Discovering Your Value Learning System and Curriculum?
Yes. So discovering your value. Let me back up even more. One of the things that if you've been in this fight in this work very long, you realize that this is an attack on identity. And these young girls, that's our lens. We work primarily with, they're all under 18, but females. There has been a distortion of their identity and their value. And so that radar for what should be understood as inappropriate or unhealthy, those boundaries have been skewed. And so we really wanted to create a program and a curriculum that would start to reestablish that value. Because what we've learned in our 12 years of operation is that when you start to increase a person's understanding of their own value, not self-centeredness, but my life has value, right?
Yes.
As a human being, when you start to increase that self-awareness of respect and value, they start to expect it from other people versus I don't think my life has any value and I feel unworthy, so therefore I let everyone treat me however they say is okay. And so this Discovering Your Value learning system was created with the concept of creating a curriculum that is specifically geared toward that middle school, high school age, those adolescents who are already struggling with where do I belong and where do I fit in, And we created a curriculum that centers around five main areas. It centers around cultural influences. How is my world influencing how I see myself and how I see others? Around relationships, both non romantic and romantic, around sexual integrity. What do I even believe about sex? And where am I getting that belief system from? Around self image. How do I see myself? And what does that, how does that then play out in my life on a daily basis? And then dreams and futures. How do all of those things affect my ability to dream, not only for myself, but for my city and my family and my life? And so all of the curriculum, there's an actual literal board game, a giant size board game that we've created that is it's interactive, it's fun, but it engages these 13-year-olds, 15-year-olds, in conversations about real hard topics, but it isn't threatening and it's not directive to where they're being called out or put on the spot. And then facilitators who are trained can actually use that as a launching pad for an 8-week intensive program with these girls to really start to get into why do I believe what I believe and how is that affecting my interaction with peers and my parents and my community, and is there an opportunity to have a different perspective that would actually change the trajectory of my life.
Fabulous. That is so
It makes me so
inspiring.
excited.
That is so inspiring. And it sounds like they really enjoy playing this game.
Yeah. We've seen quiet girls start to like speak up, and we see those that are dominating start to like, wait, I'm not the only one who has an opinion. Let me listen to my peers, and they're laughing and they like get competitive and but in a healthy way. And there is this peer-to-peer learning that we know is most effective. And there is a literal concept called gamification where if you put content into a game format, you're going to retain it more, you're going to interact and engage more. And so it's really incorporating multiple elements that just create an environment of learning, which is really what we want for these really highly vulnerable girls.
Yes, absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So, what are some tips that you would give parents?
I love this question. It's my favorite question. So as a mother, right, I raised two daughters and their friends were always in our house, and we work with all female teenage girls. And so there is I feel a little bit of an experience that I can speak to about this. When I speak to parents, especially parents of girls, right? It's across the board, but specifically for those that are raising girls, is you have to be available. And when we are not available for our children, and being available doesn't mean that they're just spewing everything to you all the time. Being available means they just may want you to sit there with them. And that starts to build trust, because when trust has been established, when there are moments of crisis, are there moments of despair, are there moments of, oh crap, I made a mistake, and that trust has been established over years, it creates a bridge to get out of a situation that is critical. Because when they don't have that bridge out, they're going to oftentimes stay. And so being available is one of the biggest things that we can do as parents. And sometimes that's very practical, like have dinners together at home and, you know, have restrictions on when they can and can't be on their phones. I know, shocker, old school here. And, there are certain things that you can set up within your household that really enforces there to be dialogue, enforces there to be healthy interaction. And they might get mad at first and they might be frustrated, but then they start to, I have two daughters at college and they call me every day, right? Of like, I just want to tell you what's going on, because that's the norm. That's just the norm in our family. Another thing for parents that I would say is that this is a non-negotiable, and this is going to be where the pushback comes, is you better put parental controls on their devices.
Yes.
And they're going to be mad at you. They're going to tell you that nobody else does this. They're going to think that you don't trust them, and get over it, because there is a predator that is on the internet. And I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to be real with you. 100% of the girls that we work with uh, I might say 99 just to give a little bit of room for air.
Right, right.
99% of the clients, sexually exploited victims that we work with somehow interacted with perpetrator or abuser online. And so that is something that we have to be real about. This is the first generation. This millennial generation is the first generation that does not know a life outside of the internet. And so they're learning what is socially acceptable on the internet. They're learning how to socially interact on the internet. And so they are already ahead of you when it comes to how to navigate that world. And so if you are not putting protections to safeguard them, you cannot keep up. It's just simply the reality. And perpetrators know that. People who mean to manipulate our children know that. They're doing it on social media platforms. They're doing it on gaming systems and platforms. They're doing it in places you'll never find. I've been doing this, like I said, almost 13 years, and I can't keep up. And it's my job to keep up with new websites and new modes and new recruitments and new things. And so I think we just have to come to grips with that we aren't able to. And so we need to put some safeguard and safety measures in place. Um, some very practical ways to do that is, on phones or laptops, there are monitoring softwares that you can use. You can set it up where things can't be downloaded without access codes or, things being put in place. There are very practical ways that you can safeguard your child. And if you are not doing it, I would say it's a detriment to them, and you need to come to grips with that.
Very, very good. I love it. I actually put together a presentation on all the tricks that predators use
Yes.
when, and I deal with teens all the time and their parents. And I tell parents to say, when they say, don't you trust me? You say, yes, I trust you, but I don't trust the 800,000 predators that are online,
Yeah.
according to the FBI, who are sharing hot tips about how to trick you.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, they
And
need to really understand. Go ahead.
Well, yes, you're 100% right. And another thing that I encourage parents to come to grips with along that same line is your child's brain is not fully developed, so don't act like it
Yes.
is.
Yes.
You're expecting them to respond the way you can process. They are not capable of processing that way. And it's not because they're doing anything wrong, it's simply because of the way that their brain is forming. And when we can look at it that way, then it becomes truly about protecting versus about an issue of trust or,
Right.
thinking that they're
Right.
hiding something or so on.
Right. Exactly. Very well said. I love that. Now, have you seen any change since the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, with regard to what's happening online and predators and being more
Yeah,
at risk?
absolutely. So yes, the way that I explained it is in March of 2020, I said to anyone who would listen, is we have just created the perfect storm. And, we've got vulnerable children who now don't have exposure to any adults who are checking on them and looking into them because schools have shut down and they're being home and they're isolated. Students are being isolated, which means they're going to become anxious and depressed, and, mental illness is going to skyrocket because everything is already online, and now we're forcing them online. And then if we think perpetrating is going to stop because a pandemic hit our country, we're naive. And so from that period on, we saw a drastic increase, actually over 40% of increase in referrals about 6 months later
Wow.
it just skyrocketed. And this, and so that's why I think one of the things that we know that I think sometimes it's so easy to be naive, and not because of ignorance, but just because you don't know what you don't know. But I think we all could think, well, trafficking must stop because perpetrators are going to listen to the shelter in place order and they're not going to go out and perpetrate people. But then as soon as we start to say it out loud, we're like, that's actually stupid.
Yes.
It never stopped. It did
No.
not stop. People were continuing to exploit. People were continuing. And in fact, it made it easier because
Yes.
now kids are home. They're not in school. And so I can just go get her at 11 o'clock in the day or have her come meet me because I'm not waiting for her to get out of school. And so it really created a perfect storm. And vulnerabilities increased, and therefore recruitment and grooming increased, and so did exploitation.
Right. And so did sex buying and so did porn viewing.
Yeah, because they didn't stop either.
No, 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 no. Well, now people are at home and they're bored and they're looking at porn. And so it actually created more of a demand for victims. And so all the way around it, I mean, like you said, it was a perfect storm.
Absolutely. That's a perfect way to say it, Susan.
Yes. So now if someone wanted to contact you to find out more about your program, how would they do that?
So the best way to do it is you can go to our website, and you can do that at either presentageministries.org, or you can go directly to discoveringyourvalue.org, and either of those will give you the information. This system has been created to be replicated. So it is a train the trainer model, so people can purchase the system and utilize it in their cities and their schools and their churches. And it comes with pre and post surveys, and it comes with evaluating tools and all of those things that we provide, so that we really can really equip these children with the tools that they need to know their value and know their identity, because that gives them a foundation to build on. If that's shaky and that's wavering, there's no way that they are going to be able to withstand the things that are being thrown at them.
Got it. Very clear. So is there anything you want to add to anything we've talked about today?
Great question. I think the one thing that I would add to someone who's listening to this, who's like, well, I can't do that right now, and that seems overwhelming, or I'm at home and I've got kids, and here's what I can tell you is everybody can do something.
Yes.
And so don't believe the lie that because you can't do that, that you can't be a part of the solution. And so that something could be sharing a post. That something could be having a conversation. That something could be donating financially. That something could be praying. And so everyone can do something. It's just choosing to say yes and recognize that it might cost you something. There might be a sacrifice, but choosing not to do anything means that we're being compliant and allowing things to happen in our midst. And that, I know no one likes that. No one wants that. So, but we have to just choose to say yes and to do something.
That is a perfect way to end this conversation. I love it. That's everyone can do something. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Hannah. I mean, you are just so loving and so supportive. I can see how these girls respond to you, and it's a stressful time for everyone. And, you know, just what God's given you as a gift. I mean, I can tell that you have the gift of, you know, compassion and counseling, and I can see why your ministry is thriving the way it is. And I just really want to thank you for being with us today. And I want to acknowledge you for saying yes to God.
Thank you, Susan. That's really an encouragement. I appreciate that.
Yes. Well, thank you.